Well, few titles are probably have as many eyeballs on them, sort of looking for a big turnaround this year as NHL 16 will, Brian Weedeye. And this week, something sort of new, at least new for people like us in the console sports gaming community, happened, and that is NHL 16 as a precursor to the launch of the game in a couple of months, or I guess less than 2 months now, launched a beta for one of their key modes, the EA Sports Hockey League. It's happening right now as we record this. It's been going on for a few days. It's going to run for a few more. A lot of people have been joining in, checking it out on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. For those of you who don't know, EA Sports Hockey League is a very specific type of mode that involves individuals controlling just one player. You customize, you create your character, you join a club, and you are one guy on the ice all the time, and you participate with other human teammates as much as possible. For a very unique kind of hockey perspective. Brian Weedeye, you and I have both been playing it, as have members of the community. Give me some of your initial impressions on the EA Sports Hockey League beta for NHL 16.
Well, EA Sports Hockey League, like you mentioned, it's a very popular mode, and it's very much the hardcore kind of the heart of the consumer base for NHL plays this mode, and that's why it took such a devastating turn last year when we found out that EA Sports Hockey League wasn't in NHL 15. So it's returning, but it's different. And there's some different design decisions here. But the biggest is probably that there's no progression, no player progression. You're choosing player classes instead, which is unique. And I think we both kind of like the concept in that you're choosing a type of player, and you're fitting them together with your teammates, and how you want to strategize in that way adds an element to this. And it also means that it's going to be a more level playing field for people, instead of just whoever buys the game day one plays the most and gets their character up to 100 in every category.
And if I can interrupt, I mean,
yeah.
To me, and I really, I don't know this. I haven't read anything, although there certainly could have been statements made to this effect. But to me, it's a direct line to esports. Many of the most popular esports are not about leveling up your character so that you're better than everybody. It's everyone on a level playing field, and then your skill and your teamwork determines your success. And to me, this is a direct line to that, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and the other part that people have maybe not paid as much attention to is that they're not going to be able to monetize it this way, which is a good thing for us. Finally, you have a mode that really can't be monetized, because they don't want to give people advantages. People who pay get advantages in Ultimate Team modes, for example. But that's not going to happen in EA Sports Hockey League, which in the past, you could buy equipment that would give your guy ratings boost. That's not happening anymore. It's all about player skill and finding someone that suits your skill on the ice, and how you fit together with your teammates. So I think that's an interesting concept.
Before you go any further, again with that though, that could be monetized not from a player rating, but certainly from a from the perspective of wearables, different designs and things like that. Which again, in certain esports kind of games like Dota stands out to me. Not that I'm a Dota expert. Or Heroes of the Storm, again, not an expert, but there's a lot of, and certainly League of Legends, right, where you can buy different things for your avatar, custom objects and things, which are purely for looks, but don't give you any added benefit. But I could certainly see them going in that direction. And again, as long as it doesn't make anybody better, if people want to spend $5 here or $4 there to outfit their their hockey player with cool stuff. Again, to me, I don't see a problem with that whatsoever. So it could be monetized that way if they wanted to.
And Rocket League, same thing. They could monetize that by adding cosmetic stuff. It's all cosmetic. It's not affecting performance. It's not creating an imbalance between people. So I think that's an important element here. But as far as before we get to kind of gameplay. This beta is restricted, and it's restricted in multiple ways, as I think we've learned as we played it. First of all, it's restricted, we know, to those people who have NHL 15, whether that's their own copy or through EA Access.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also restricted to people who know other people who they can get together with for club games, because you can't be a loner in this mode. You can't just drop into a game or matchmake. There's no matchmaking where you form a team together. So you have to know people. And not only that, but they have to be online at the same time as you. So you need kind of a network of people, whether that's through social media or just your personal friends. You need that network to be able to play, period. And then this one is a design decision. I hope it's not something that's actually set for the final game, because it hasn't been this way in the past. But you can only play one game at a time, and I mean that for your club. You can't have multiple games going on at once. So what we learned was, if you have a big club, so let's say we set up the Hit the Pass club on Xbox One, and then we had a bunch of people join. And then there were more people than would fit in one game, or people would come in late to the waiting room, and they wouldn't be able to play. So people have to wait around. So it's restricted to just one game also going on at the same time for your club, which I think is troublesome for the long term, because if you have a big club, you're just going to have people sitting around and they can't even play if they want to, because you're also only limited to playing in one club. So there are some issues here that I foresee with the mode if that remains the case. Because in the past, you could have multiple games for your club going on in EA Sports Hockey League. But now you have people sitting in a waiting room. They don't even know what period the current game is in. They just have to sit there and wait. So I think that could be a future issue. And even in the beta, I think it's frustrating for some people who they just want to play. And this is an issue we've seen in other modes, whether it could be NBA 2K's park mode, where you have to wait around in the got next circles. People just want to play. You have to give them the freedom to play and not wait around. So that could be an issue long term.
Well, I mean, it's a beta, right? So you could look at it a couple different ways. Number one, you could look at it in a hopeful way, which is these are exactly the kind of things that you want to get out of a beta. And hopefully there's enough time to make enough adjustments so that these issues, at least some of them, can be addressed. I mean, I would imagine that perhaps the way, and I don't know this, perhaps it's been discussed in forums, perhaps the NHL guys have responded, or perhaps not, but it's a beta, so they don't have, I would imagine, some of the same infrastructure going on. So maybe they're purposely sort of trying to keep it limited so they can test the things they want to test without having this massive load. Don't know. It's entirely possible that you will be able to play more than one game at a time, or that you will at least have an idea what the score is and how much time is left in the game.
Yeah.
So hopefully these are exactly the kinds of reasons and that they're having the beta, and they'll get feedback to address these, because these aren't the kind of things you would want to see at launch with a game in a mode which is going to have, it's going to have many tens of thousands of people playing at once. I mean, it's certainly the numbers when I log in, I see 8,000 people on, 12,000 people on, 20,000 people on. I mean, that's a clear indicator that when this game goes live to a large group of, a larger group of people, this mode is going to get hit pretty hard, I would think.
Yeah, it is a very popular mode, and it's going to be heavily played because people are coming back to NHL really for this reason. For this one mode is probably the biggest driver of interest right now, and that's why they had the beta, and it gives them an opportunity to examine the way people are playing, to examine their new player classes and balance those out differently if it turns out certain ones are stronger than others or they don't play right together. And I think it's an interesting opportunity here to learn from it. Now we have, 6 weeks or so until the game releases. They should be able to put together a patch for day one based off this feedback. How significant it'll be, it's hard to say. If they're looking at fundamentally changing some things like the ability to play multiple games, or if that's just a beta restriction right now, we don't know.
There's a lot of good stuff that's come out of this personally. I have played EA SHL in the past. I distinctly remember having a lot of fun with it particularly a couple of years ago. But it was never a mode that I spent that much time in. It was always something I sort of recognized as being really cool, but almost kind of fringe. But playing the mode just in EASHL, having it focused just on that mode in this beta, certainly I know that when I get NHL 16, the real game, I'm going to go and play some more EA Sports Hockey League, because this is really, like you said, heighten my awareness of it. But it's one thing to make you more aware of something, but it's another thing to, when you play it, have fun. And despite some of the issues that we're going to talk about, the bottom line is EASHL games are an absolute blast for a number of reasons. Number one, you really do get you have a lot of fun when you're working with your teammates, right? When we're on a breakaway on a 2-on-1 and I'm skating down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to pass it to you, and you get in position, or I'm calling for it. Like, those kind of moments are pretty unique. You don't get those a lot in sports video games. The games themselves, they're really fun. They're intense. I mean, we've had some overtime games. We've had some really close matches. They're a lot of fun. I mean, it just comes down to it. Sometimes you get blowouts, of course. Sometimes you run into, as we did, you run into a team which is clearly better than you. And that's okay. I mean, the other thing is the game time is relatively tight, right? One of the reasons that NHL can be fun online is that you're not committing an hour to it. You can play these things in about 20, 25 minutes or so, too. So there's a lot of reasons that EASHL is fun. Its intensity, its camaraderie, its progression as well. They've got the online seasons, sort of progression really well, where you can move up, to different divisions and improve your tiers. And then they're going to have playoffs at the end of the month, every month, which are a blast. I mean, I still remember lots of people tell me some of their favorite memories of any sports game is when they get their team's banner raised up, after they win a championship. So EASHL is a lot of fun. I'm glad that they brought the beta in. It reminded me of how fun it is, and it definitely means that I'm going to jump in and play it quite a bit when the game comes out. Obviously, there's a lot of competition for our time when it comes out, but it's it's been a really nice job positioning EASHL as sort of a cornerstone of the game, and really trying to drive home how important it is to them.
Yeah, you were mentioning kind of those moments in the games that stand out, and it's really about sharing those moments. Whether it's one of the coolest things is you got your name on your jersey, you've got the screen wipes with your name that when it cuts to replays and stuff like that. Those are awesome. That's really fun to see. Especially there are some creative names people are coming up with out there.
Indeed, yes.
Which is kind of funny, and we'll have to see. They'll probably be adjusting their swear filters and things of that nature. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. I think we're still learning the game just like everybody is. So there's a certain level of sloppiness to it that was detracted a little bit from the experience early on. But they, in the end, we had a good time playing, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that has been the least fun for me personally has been the controls. They've just felt off. NHL, for me, has always been one of the better controlling sports game franchises. I really just feel comfortable with the skating and the shooting. Passing, seems like every both the NHL and the FIFA series in particular, and the NBA games, the passing functionality is questionable. NHL definitely has a history of some interesting passing decisions, but the passing is in particular just doesn't feel good. And again, I'm not gonna freak out about it. I'm not gonna suggest that, oh no, the controls are awful in NHL 16. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, in the EASHL beta for me on the Xbox One, the controls felt very loose, very sloppy. Everything felt like a half or a quarter second behind. Like I could never get my timing right. I never felt like I was controlling these hockey players the way that I've always felt I've controlled them in the past. So that's my one complaint. And again, I'm chalking up to it's a beta. They're going to make it better. I don't think these guys somehow forgot to make good controls between NHL 15 and 16. It's definitely a concern that I had. And took away some of the fun because I just didn't feel like I was really sort of managing what was happening as well as I could.
Yeah, things do feel a little heavy, and it's creating a lot of situations where, like I said, it feels sloppy. And I think it's partially due to that, due to timing issues, due to input lag. It gets very sloppy, and due to some poor AI-controlled play. And then there's also, I've heard from people, I do not know anything really about this area, but I've heard from people who like to control the goalies, saying that the controls and their control of the goalies is horrendous. So we'll need to see something happen there, hopefully.
Well, I'll just say this: God bless you if you want to control a goaltender in NHL.
You put yourself in the spotlight. You know, you can't escape that.
I cannot imagine a more difficult translation from real world to video games that involves fun than trying to be a goaltender. Again, if there are, and there are, not if, but I know there are plenty of people out there, guys who want to be the goaltender. But boy, to me, NHL is about everything except trying to just sit there and goal and then trying to figure out, is he going top, is he going bottom? Like, no, I want to be skating around and shooting and knocking people over. Controlling goaltender, to me, it's got to be hard to make that fun. And it sounds like right now it's not in the best state.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that goes. But there are people who really love that, so that's interesting. And then another thing I wanted to point out was my sense of who I am controlling and where the puck is on the ice at any given time is not very good. You have a certain color icon above your player. You have to remember it's based just on the specific position that you've chosen. And they have a little icon that kind of directs you to where the puck is. It's, it faded into the background a little bit. And then there's also an icon within your icon that goes solid when you have the puck. It's not good enough. I don't know. I'm skating around because you're not always concentrating on your guy, right? You're looking other places to see how you want to approach your next move, what you want to do next. And I lose that sense of where my guy is. And I'll look down and see, I've skated off. I'm down at the bottom of the screen running up against the boards by myself, or I'm skating around looking for the puck and I actually have it. So these are some issues. I think there needs to be a more obvious way to know where the puck is, who your guy is, and the sense of everything within the context of all the action going on at a given time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping, though, that when you get a larger palette of arenas and jerseys, to choose from, because a lot of the games we were playing were Tampa versus Tampa, right? So because there's only 2 or 3 or 4 teams that you can even sort of choose their colors and things like that. So I'm thinking a little bit of that is that, but then you're right. It's definitely, you have to teach yourself, you have to learn, you have to kind of understand that's definitely an issue as well. The thing, going back to the classes, though, it really became apparent to me, particularly our second night of playing the games, was how I think a brilliant design decision it was, because there's a pretty good number of different player classes, and depending upon what position you are, really impacts sort of the player class. I remember at one point I chose to be the center, and I think I chose a power forward, and I think I lost almost every face-off. And then I was the center, and I think I was a good two-way player is what I was another time, and I won the majority of the face-offs. It's little things like that as you learn and you understand different positions, what classes are maybe better for certain positions, as well as what strengths you have versus the other classes of other players and other positions, I can really see some really interesting, combinations of teams being created. And then how do you oppose those other teams? There's a whole, I think, like universe of this kind of stuff that's going to unfold over the course of the first month or two of the season. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that was intriguing to me. And you also see, like you mentioned, you also see what your opponents are choosing on the select screen. So you can kind of mix and match to go up against each other. We were talking a little bit about the controls. Now, there's some classes I think I've already decided, enforcer for one, because we can hardly ever line up a hard hit. And that's a control issue again, because we just go skating right by somebody, and a timing issue that seems inherent with the online right now for that game. So.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking that there will be a whole lot of enforcers out there, all regardless, and not just because of that, but also it's hard to, because it's not like you're rolling lines, right? There's not 10 or 15 guys, right? It's the same 5 guys and goaltender the whole game, so it's going to be hard to find a situation where, unless you're playing with a really good team and somebody almost wants to just have some fun, where an enforcer would be the right class. But what's funny about that to me is there was an article, and I think it was Sports Illustrated a few months ago, about how enforcers are a dying breed in the NHL. Now that the moneyballization of hockey has sort of happened, there's a lot of looking into advanced analytics, and a lot of guys are saying there's just no need for an enforcer. They actually detract from your ability to score and win than others. So I think it's also a little bit of that, right? Just in the game today in the NHL, the enforcer is getting more marginalized every year.
Well, while we're on that subject, Rich, I'd like your opinion on penalties, because we've discussed penalties for Madden many times. But what do you think of it in NHL? And then do you like being sent to the penalty box and having to watch from that perspective and being taken off the ice?
Well, let me first say that penalties in the NHL are wildly different than penalties in Madden. Penalties in the NHL are a strategy for both taking and giving them. Power plays are a huge part of the game. So I'm not anti-penalty in NHL. It's interesting being sent to the bench, being sent to the penalty boxes. You are sent to the penalty box. You sit there as your guy for the 2 minutes, and you watch the action, and it is an interesting perspective. I was tossed into the penalty box the other night for something, I think tripping, and I didn't even try to trip it. I was a little miffed about that call. And I watched what was going on, and I saw the perspective, and it was a little interesting. It's just funny how you literally get sent to the penalty box and you watch it for the whole 2 minutes, or if they score, you come out earlier, but that's the last thing you want to have.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a helpless feeling. But we also noticed that we always seem to score shorthanded.
A lot of shorthanded goals.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on with that.
You know what it honestly could be? I mean, you're freeing up a little more ice space, right? And, when you're playing and it's 5 human beings and, you guys might all be crossing and moving all over the place. When there's one less, you have a little more freedom, a little more room to maneuver. It literally, I was thinking about that. That might be one of the reasons, because you're not playing with AI teammates who are sort of doing what they're supposed to be doing. You're playing with a bunch of humans who are doing what humans do.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just funny though, because we get hit with offsides all the time, and when that's
all the time.
When that's an icing, and I'm thinking those aren't penalties, obviously, but penalty, and then the penalties that take guys off the ice, I'm always thinking man, this is disrupting the flow, Rich.
I am fine with penalties in the NHL. Gives you power plays, gives you scoring opportunities. I'm 100% in favor. More penalties, the better.
Oh no, I'm quoting you, but I'm taking it out of context and putting that towards Madden. I'm gonna pull that audio out and say Rich has changed his mind. He loves penalties.
Totally not true. Totally.
And then one more thing we have to hit on, Rich. Your love of the mascots. I think it's pretty neat. I think it's neat. We see the mascots. I think they're the one mascot is in every scene. Somehow he's in every scene in the background. But pretty cool. Banging on the thing, we getting involved in the moments, and you see him in the background moving around. I think it's pretty neat. But you seem to think you're getting sick of it.
I have already seen enough of the mascots. That's just me, but I can after the third or fourth time in the game, I'm thinking, what, I can see myself getting tired of this really quickly. So yeah, maybe it's just because I keep seeing the same guy over and over again. But to me, To me, I mean, I've been to a lot of NHL games in my life. You know, mascots are not a big part of the NHL atmosphere. You know, I haven't been to one in a couple of years. Maybe things have changed a bit in the last couple of years, but
it depends on the team, probably.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm. I definitely was. I was already a little overboard with the mascots.
All right. Well, that's fine. I think it's a cool atmospheric touch, but we'll have to see if they're doing the same thing all the time in every arena. Yeah, you're probably right.
So there we go. EA Sports Hockey League NHL 16 beta. If you haven't had a chance and you have the ability to go get it, I would suggest giving it a shot. Join the Hit the Pass Club. We got a bunch of guys in there. There's a few games going on every night. We're having some fun. It runs from now until, when is it?
Friday, August 7th.
Very good. So still got some time. Go check it out. And those are our thoughts on the EASHL NHL 16 beta.